everyone. Welcome to this episode of Mismatch. So today I have a very good friend with me who's being here, who's joining me today, and I haven't seen her in ages, so I'm very excited about this. Her name is Dena Jackson. So she's a comedian and motivational speaker. She's performed throughout North America, Just for Laughs, Winnipeg Comedy Festival, Jimmy Kimmel's Comedy Club in Las Vegas. She's performed multiple shows in Alaska for U.S. Armed Forces. Pretty cool. Regularly featured on CBC. She has comedy albums, Blue Lights, and Disenchanted Form comedy records on SiriusXM Radio. And now she's launching a book. And her book is called Self-Help Me, the book. And it's honest, funny. There's personal stories alongside wellness tools to process heavy emotions. We all know there are always heavy emotions going on, but Dena has a wonderful story to share. And she's with us today. Thanks for coming in, Dena.
Thank you for having me, Nicole.
I'm so excited. So the first time that we met was at a live eye shoot that I was doing for Breakfast Television, which is a Toronto morning show. And I was doing yoga with kids at, is it Little Yogi?
Little Yogis, yeah.
Little Yogis. Right. And they teach yoga to kids. And you were an instructor. And I remember we hit it off when we were kind of off air and chatting. And then I went out to one of your comedy shows and I laughed my freaking ass off and I loved it. And I've listened to your albums as well. And I just think you're awesome. So congratulations on this huge endeavor.
Oh, well, thank you. That's such a nice way to start this conversation. That's really kind of you, Nicole. Thank you for having me.
It's truly the truth. I say I'm not nice. I'm just honest. So.
Well, I have a great memory of meeting you because you came into this space where we were teaching with so many kids and you had such a bright, happy, joyful face and just great energy about you. And so, yeah, I felt magnetic when we met, and then having you at the show was really lovely. That was actually for one of the album releases. I think it was that was for Blue Lights.
It was so good. It was so, so good. You're amazing. And thank you for saying that. That's very kind of you. Let's talk about this book.
Sure.
Okay, so how did this come about? Because there's a lot to unpack.
Yeah, definitely a lot to unpack. I feel like I have opened my whole heart in this book, and I started writing it about a year ago, but my journey with it started about 10 years ago. And it was when I was working as a stand-up comic, and stand-up comedy and working in entertainment was my foundation, which, as you know, as someone working in entertainment, it's not a foundation. At all.
True, it's the opposite of that.
Yeah, it's a tough place to be at times, and then a great place to be at times, but definitely not the thing that can keep you balanced, I would say. And that was fine for a while until some challenges started to happen in my life, and my dad got sick and he passed away. I went through a very painful and difficult divorce. And it was in this 2-year period about 10 years ago. And I was hanging out in comedy clubs and, around lots of alcohol and just bad decisions. And I was like, I have to get out of this environment because this isn't serving me. And so I went on a yoga retreat. And I didn't know much about yoga at the time. I was someone who thought it was an exercise class, which if anyone's listening, you may think that, and that's totally cool. That's definitely part of it. But when I went on the retreat, I learned about the philosophy of yoga and how it can help with processing emotions and how emotions are stored in the body. And I didn't know any of that stuff. Mm-hmm. I went into that retreat trying to sneak wine into the retreat. Like that was my vibe.
I love that so much.
I was like, no, they won't notice. They noticed. It was a no. I did not get a pass on bringing the wine.
Did you get yelled at?
I got a gentle tap on the arm. Like, this isn't the place for that. And it was just a different world that I was coming from into that space. But then I ended up leaving the retreat being so into yoga, so interested in meditation and wellness and what it can do, that about 6 or 7 months later, I decided to go to India and do my yoga teacher training. Yeah, so I was doing that while working as a stand-up comic. So we would have...
Oh my God, the juxtaposition of that is wild.
Yeah, it was wild because I would go and do that and be in the beautiful south of India that I love so much. I was in Goa and I just fell in love with it there. and then come back and do auditions for comedy festivals and stuff and be right back at it. And it was good though, because that retreat is what opened the door for me into the whole wellness world and how there is a lot out there to help manage your mental health and your well-being. And a lot of it you can do for yourself in your day-to-day, which I didn't know at the time. So after yoga, I started teaching, which is what led me to work with kids. And that's how I ended up meeting you. And then that led me to become interested in mindfulness. So then I became certified as a mindfulness instructor. That led me to breathwork, which I also practice. And then Reiki as well, which I'm also certified Reiki master. So all of those things ended up being such a major part of my life, but originally they were just things I was learning for my own well-being. And then now I offer them. And so the book is about that. It's about going through those challenges. And then I think about what kind of a book I would have wanted 10 years ago that has everything in it, all the practices in it, and honest pieces of information about how I can work through vulnerability or stress or fear or imposter syndrome and what tools might help. And so that's what put the book together.
That's amazing. And what a beautiful marriage of comedy and self-help, right? Like, I think, because to me, like, comedy, most of it is like, I think as a comedian, correct me if I'm wrong, but you got to be able to laugh through like the hard stuff.
Yes.
Right? And like, once you kind of frame your mindset around being able to do that, then you can kind of move forward, or you have like a healthier relationship, say, with like the bad things that happen in life. And so to combine that with like wellness and, you know, that part of the aftermath of the tragedy, laughing through the hard stuff, is really interesting.
Oh, well, that's very kind of you to say. It's definitely not an easy thing. And for a long time, I know many comedians can relate to the whole concept of just trying to find the funny in the pain.
Yeah.
And for me, I feel, and from my experience, that I need more than that. I need to be able to actually work through it. And what are things that I can do and be accountable for throughout my daily life? Because like we were talking about before, working in entertainment, you can have this amazing month where you're doing TV sets and you're performing for major crowds and you're doing these great venues, and then the next month it's quiet and it's silent, and that's how it is, right? And you need to be able to find balance so that you're comfortable throughout both, and your ego isn't just flung in one direction and the other.
Totally. And because it is so extremist, the ego really does take a hit, because then you become, you know, you start questioning everything, yourself, what you're doing, your worth. And then it's very easy to spiral.
Yes.
I'm like the queen of spiraling.
But I like that you're so honest about that.
Yeah.
Because I'm also a queen of spiraling. And I just think if we can just be more honest about that with people just talking about it openly, there's so many people that can relate. And we all know that the persona that we try to portray, and like on social media, all of that kind of stuff, is just one small piece of what's really going on. And the reasons that we get into things like entertainment is because we're creatives and because we want to share and we have something to offer. And it's very easy to get pulled into the ego side of, okay, but now this validates me or my self-worth. Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So how did you get into comedy, Dena, to begin with? How do you know you're funny? Do people tell you? Did you kind of know it? It's like you like making people laugh. Like, well, what is it? What was it for you?
That's a
you can say that's
question.
funny.
Yeah, no, but it's true. It's like you kind of do have to have a little bit of you have to have some confidence to say, okay, I can give this a try. For me, when I was a kid, I used to do public speaking competitions. So now as a speaker, like I didn't know back then, it wasn't cool. It was very uncool. I wore a lot of vests. I had a mushroom cut and a beret. Like I was, doing these speeches for a lot of Royal Canadian Legions, for a lot of like,
nice.
yeah, and going around and doing that. But I was like this little kid with lots to say. So that was probably one of the first moments. But then I went to Italy after university and was doing children's theater.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's where actually I met my ex-husband, who's Italian, and that's who the divorce was with.
As a half-breed Italian, I'm so sorry.
Well, Well, Italians like yourself, so beautiful and kind and exciting, but yes, lots of
But also
passion.
passionate and
Yeah.
crazy, which is honestly, I would say to myself, like, I can't date an Italian. I've tried it. It never works because it's like too much passion and craziness. Like there's too much of it. You
Yeah.
need to offset it.
That's fair. I mean, so but it was when I was there that I worked in children's theater. So I started doing theater. So then that led to the children's yoga. Like, it's interesting when you look back at your life and you're like, oh, okay, that connected to that. But I had no idea that those things would connect. But there's always been a thread throughout of performance. And so then that led to studying at the Second City almost 14 years ago, doing my training there and starting while in the daytime I was working in public relations. So I had a day job, and then at night I was doing comedy shows, and over time really starting to build something there, and then went full time with it almost 10 years ago. So
wow.
Yeah, and then that led to speaking. Speaking came through a lot of the wellness stuff, and I love speaking to groups because I find there's more opportunity for storytelling there. It's not just about the laughter. There are other opportunities as well to connect.
For sure. Yeah. There's a balancing act there.
Mm-hmm, for sure.
That's so cool. I often think when I watch stand-up comedians, you are the bravest people that I know, doing the bravest thing that is like the best medicine. Like for example, like I was just having a rough day last week, and like my boyfriend knows that, like, you know, like sometimes laughter is the best medicine, and he put on Kill Tony.
Oh, nice.
And so we started watching it, and immediately, like within like 10 minutes, my mood was completely shifted, and I'm like laughing my ass off because he's hilarious. And I admire so much stand-up comedians. How do you find the courage and like confidence, I would say, to share in front of a crowd where you really don't know how people are going to react? Like when you're motivational speaking, you know, people are there for a reason, and they often are a supportive crowd, you know, open to what you have to say, but not so much in a comedy club.
No.
For sure. People are sometimes really crass and pretty awful.
Yeah. Comedy, it's like any other skill. You learn it over time, and you just have to get comfortable with it.
Yeah.
And you get to a point where you don't even notice it anymore. I mean, I would imagine it's similar for you being in front of a camera, right? Like you've done that.
No, girl, not comparison.
Oh, no?
Yours
Okay.
is way harder, okay?
No, I mean,
I don't
like
deserve the comparison of what I do.
It's probably, you're more comfortable though.
Yeah.
That's, you know, so you over the time, you just get really comfortable, and you also find a way to connect with the audience, but also detach in the sense of like, yes, I'm bearing my soul to you.
Yeah.
And I hope you like it, because you might not, depending on where you're at and where the night's at and what I'm saying. But yeah, and it's what's interesting about comedy is you can do the exact same set, and one night an audience loves you and they're just so connected and the room is rolling and it's just the best feeling. And then the next night you can do the exact same set and nothing. And I feel like that speaks so much about energy, where the performer is at, what has happened that day in the world, where the audience is at, the time of day, like all of these things play into it. So yeah, it's not for the faint of heart, but it can be very rewarding.
Do you find that because of, you know, things that are happening, are you like ever evolving like jokes and scripts and all of that? Like you're constantly rewriting things.
Yeah, definitely. And it's important to comment on those things, because otherwise it'll be an elephant in the room if the audience is really feeling something. Like if there's something political going on, even not as a political comic, which I'm not, still there needs to be commentary on what's going on if that's what everyone is focused on that day. And it's about reading the room, which came from a comedy setting. That's where that line came from. But yes.
I love that. I actually didn't know that. But here's a question for you then, because more and more comedy and or comics are being censored because, you know, things in the world are, you know, very tumultuous, and people are very opinionated and feel strongly that when people can't take a joke the same way, like comedy is not received the same way anymore. Do you think that?
I think we're definitely at a very sensitive time. You can shine a light in someone's eye and they're offended. Like, yeah. And so, yes, but comedy is an art form where freedom of speech is so important. And actually, I think that the podcast medium is one of the best mediums right now for freedom of speech. So it's wonderful that you have this podcast, but it's also just a nice place where people can come and find the people that they connect with, the performers that they connect with, and what they have to say, because that's where people are going to speak candidly about these experiences. So yes, I'm going to go and speak freely in a comedy club, but there might be another gig that I'm doing where I'm told I can't talk about these things. And that's definitely happened and probably will continue to happen. And so it's about navigating that, but also being true to myself and the audience.
Have you had an experience where, you're told, like you said, like, don't talk about this, just best to avoid this, or that you've even said something with a crowd and it didn't go the way that you probably had hoped or planned for it to go?
I've had both.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've definitely had both. I've had both about political situations where you're just told you can't talk about these things. And yeah, depending on the nature of the opportunity, the gig, you have to comply to that.
Yeah.
Especially if it's a private performance. I mean, then in that case, you have to do it. Or you can choose not to, like if you feel really strongly about what it is that you want to say. But if it's, someone's recording a special or something that's unique to them, like an album, then comedians are going to want to speak freely. Yeah. And then, have I had where I say something and it doesn't go over well? Yes, all the time. It's the worst feeling. Like, it's like you want the ground to open up and swallow you. And that's the thing about ego, is if you don't have your ego in check, like, every comedian knows you can't walk in all puffy chest being like, oh yeah, I'm so good at this, because very well the next night it could bomb so bad. Like on a level that you're like, I don't know why I do this. This shouldn't be my job anymore because I suck. For sure.
I love that. It's just, it's a job that just keeps you on your toes, I imagine, constantly.
All the time. Yeah.
And so, but at the same time, like you mentioned, one of the hardships that you've gone through in your life is losing your dad. And so how did you navigate making people laugh, where you have to put this persona on, but then inside you're dealing with something completely the opposite of that?
Yeah, I really appreciate that question. It was really hard. My dad had some liver and kidney issues. He also had type 2 diabetes. And so those were the things that contributed to his passing. So he was sick. Thank you. He was sick for about a year. And I mentioned that just to give some insight into it. But I was going from the hospital to go and do shows. And that was not the right decision. Looking back, I realized that I was completely in a state of burnout. And I wasn't in a place to make anyone laugh. And one time I left the hospital, went to do a show, and I talk about this in the book. I went on stage. I had absolutely nothing left in the tank. Like I was just saying the words verbatim and looking out at the audience, and the lights were in my eyes, and it was silence, like crickets, because I had no energy.
Right.
And if a comedian is doing a performance and they have nothing to give, the audience is going to feel it. They may not know why, but they just feel it because it's not coming from a genuine place.
Right.
And so I was so burned out and just bombed. And then I remember going into a back alley afterwards to like try to collect myself. I was upset. I was like, how could I feel any worse? You know what I mean? And a woman came up to me and she's like, you were just talking about working in an office, and nobody there works in an office. She meant well. She meant very well, right?
Yeah.
She was trying to support.
Yeah.
But it was like I just needed the
like,
ground
lady,
to
you
open
have
up.
no idea what's going on.
Yeah, like it truly came from a good place when she said that. But I was just like, that was the moment where I was like, I am fully burned out. I should not be performing right now. And that's something that I do share with anyone who works in entertainment. We know those moments when we get there where you're so burned out and there are so many other parts of your life that are just taking precedent. And it's just, you have to step away. And I didn't, and I paid for it. So yeah, there's a section on burnout in the book and what I do now to make sure that I don't get into that space. So I do a lot of breath work. I do a lot of EFT tapping. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
I've heard about that before.
It's like, so it's working with acupressure points in the body. So you're tapping like in between the eyebrows, underneath the eye, side of the hand, and there are other areas, the collarbone. and you're saying positive affirmations, but you're not just saying positive affirmations, you're checking in with how you're actually feeling.
Like physically. So that touch is like the reminder that your physical body is getting that reminder. Is like
It was, yes, but
I'm
these
tapping
these,
the wrong place. Like this? No, it's
yeah.
like
Well, so these areas hold stress, and so
oh.
acupuncture also works with acupressure points. So the same way that you put a needle in with acupuncture,
Right.
you're tapping to release that energy that gets stuck.
Interesting.
So when you tap and then you say a statement like, I'm feeling really doubtful right now, or I'm feeling really overwhelmed right now, you're being honest about what you're feeling, you're acknowledging that feeling, and then you're allowing yourself to be open to the opposite of that being true. So even though I'm feeling doubtful, I'm willing to tap on this doubt. And even though I'm feeling overwhelmed, I'm willing to let some of this go. And you just keep tapping and saying positive affirmations throughout. And I notice every time, even after doing it for like 5 minutes, I'll notice a huge shift. So this is a really nice exercise for anybody who doesn't really want to practice meditation, or they find their mind gets really busy. I find tapping can be so helpful. And there are some great YouTube videos. Like I like one called Tap with Brad Yates. He's so good. He's like the tapping guy. But they're free, and so people can use those.
Yeah.
And it's a great starting point. But even just doing something like that, you're connecting the body mind, and you are getting back in your body, especially when you're dealing with something like burnout.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I think a lot of people can relate to feeling burnt out, especially because, I mean, even specifically in this business, like you said, it's constant. You cannot shut off. I was just saying this to someone on a call earlier today of like, you really seldomly feel like you can really turn off or take that time away, that you work yourself to the bone and then you burn and you crash and burn. And like, I have done this, I seemingly do this to myself because I have really struggled with identifying the moment that it's approaching. Like, how do you identify now when it's approaching? Is it like anxiety that you feel? Is it sleep deprivation? What are the sorts of things that you see as like, it's coming, the train's coming for you, so hurry up and put a new track on.
Yeah. For me, it's actually a combination of those two things. So
Yeah.
anxiety and sleep deprivation. I have something that I call night anxiety, which is, I say in my act, it's like day anxiety, but haunted, right? But the reason that I know that it's coming up is it will start to I'll wake up at like 3 a.m. and I can't, so I'll fall asleep, no problem. I'm exhausted from whatever's going on in the world. And then at 3 a.m. I wake up, and then the mind is just spinning, going, thinking about just ridiculous things that don't need to take up space at that time.
Right.
And it gets more intense when I'm starting to get close to that feeling of overwhelm. So that's one for me, but also just, overall just feeling very tired throughout the day and not really sure as to why, because my adrenal glands everything's working right now.
Yeah.
And so I think those are indicators and signs. If I'm dropping things, I don't know if that ever happens to you, but when you're really busy and like you're trying to get out the door and I drop things everywhere, I'm like, my body is trying to tell me something here. I need to stop. I need to place my hand on my heart, my hand on my belly. And so I'll do things like that. They literally just take about a minute or two, but they make a huge difference, and you can shift out of that.
That's really helpful. Thank you for sharing that.
Of course. Happy to.
So moving on now, so what was the journey like then when you realized that you needed to step away from work and be with your dad and go through that journey with him?
Yeah, it took time, because I am a recovering workaholic and a recovering people pleaser. And many of us can relate.
I'm nodding my head. I can relate for sure.
And so it took having to get to that point of being in a full state of burnout in that instance. And so then it was like I had no other option. I needed to break away. But also in my case, my dad's health was getting worse. And so I needed to be at the hospital and be there. But I did realize coming out of that, like after he had passed away, that I was just doing too much, and that I was actually trying to avoid my feelings, because I was, like I said at the time, working in public relations and then doing comedy at night. So I was spinning around. This is before I became a full-time comic and speaker. So I was just like going around and around, and so my body was just in full like, I don't know, it was like it would lock at night, you know? And so, yeah.
You're like hypervigilant all the time. It's like, what's next? What's next? What's next?
Yeah.
Just always anticipating and being on guard. You can't relax.
Yeah. And so it really was when I went on that yoga retreat. So that was about a year after he had passed. I started to slow down a little bit at work. But I knew I had to actually physically get out of the scenario I was in. That was the decision I made. But I share that in a way to let people know that you don't have to get to tragedy in your life to start doing these things. In fact, if you have these types of practices in place, whether that's traditional therapy, whether that's if you do a yoga practice, a mindfulness practice, a meditation practice, breath work, any of these things, those kinds of things can become your foundation. And then you have that balance. And so now I feel better prepared to handle tragedy if it happens again, which it does because it's part of the human experience. So yeah, I think that answered your question.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It feels very, and I resonate with this movie. That's why I bring this up, Eat, Pray, Love, where you kind of reach a point in your life, and whether you're any sort of tragedy or something bad that happens in your life, and you're like, I need to make a whole change. And sometimes leaving what is the day-to-day gives you a whole new like mindset and like approach to how you're going to choose to move forward and live your life. Yeah. Was the retreat that for you?
Definitely. I like to say I eat, pray, love my way through my divorce. So no, you're 100% on it. And I didn't know it at the time, but that was kind of the way I was going through it. And then, I guess so too, because I spent that time in Italy.
There you go.
That wasn't planned, but definitely in those ways, I think. And I think the reason why that book was so successful is because so many people could relate to that, and they want to be able to step out of their everyday. And if they're not feeling confident or happy or joyful and they want to try to find that again, sometimes it does involve taking a step out of what you're doing to be able to have that outside perspective and say, okay, what do I want to do now to reset? And also, how am I going to re-enter in a way that's not the way that I was before? Yeah.
So how did you do that when you went to India? Like, what did you learn there? What was that like? That experience must have been amazing.
It was, like I said, I loved it so much that I really want to go back. That place is very, very special and has a special place in my heart. What was great about it when you're doing your yoga teacher training, you're training a lot. So you're practicing a lot throughout the day, doing the physical practice and studying, but going there and learning about emotions and how understanding emotions and how we process emotions was like way more common knowledge there. Like that was just more of a conversation.
You think it's a cultural thing?
Yeah, definitely. Like if I was to ever have a child, I would want them to study yoga, not because they would need to teach or not teach, but just to learn about life and how we process emotions. I do think that that's something that's missing in the West. I don't feel like I learned that in school. And learning about that and how you can actually eat for your body type, but also eat for healing, and also for the different seasons, like what to be eating in the winter versus the summer. And I didn't know any of that stuff.
I only learned that because I went to go see a friend of mine who is a psychic, actually. And she had said that to me. And I had asked her then afterwards, she's like, you should be eating more warm foods. You're eating too many like raw, cold things. You need more warmth in your body. I was like, what? I was like, I'm pretty woo-woo, but this is woo-woo. Like, I don't know what you mean by that. She's like, no, you don't understand. Like, there's actual nutrients in these warm things that do something to your body.
Yeah.
And have an overall, like, physiological effect on it.
100%. Yeah. Ayurveda, which is so closely connected to the yoga practice, comes from an area, Kerala, in the south of India. And that's where I learned a lot. That's where I understood a lot of these things. But that's the one place that I didn't get to go to when I was there. So I'm going back to Kerala. If anyone here lives in Kerala, just know I'm coming. I don't know what that means, but I'm on my way. But yeah, it was an amazing experience there. And my teacher, I'm still very close with my teacher, and he's opened a new school there as well. So at some point I will probably go back and train with him again. He's just a wonderful human being.
Nice.
So, yeah.
How did you find the place?
You know what's so interesting about that? I really, really wanted to go and study. And so I asked a friend whose brother had gone. And he gave me a whole like bit of information, a whole spiel. He was like, oh yes, it was amazing. It changed my life. And this is the school and you have to try it. And I can only say amazing things about it. And then so I was like, amazing. I'm going to go there. Like my friend's brother said, it's good.
Easy.
I'm good. So that's what I did. And so I signed up, did the whole thing. I went to a different school.
No.
It had the same name, the exact same name, but it was a different school. But it was like I was meant to go to that
to that one. How weird.
Isn't that weird?
How did you at what point did you realize, oh, this isn't the one?
I don't even think it was until I got home. Like,
well, that's good. So you weren't panicked when you were there. When you landed and you're like, oh shit, this isn't the same place.
Yeah, it was like the most bizarre thing. And then there was this very sweet family that lived down the street. They cooked all of our meals for us, and everything was so beautiful and delicious. And oh my gosh, it was amazing. But yeah, it wasn't even until I got home I was like, this is not the same school.
The universe had another plan for
100%, 100%. The universe wanted me to go there. I was supposed to be there, and I loved it. Yeah.
That's really cool. Let's shift gears to your divorce,
sure,
if we may.
Totally.
Walk me through the love story first and how this happened, if you're okay with that.
Yeah. Happy to talk about it. So I was working in Italy right after university doing children's theater. I like to say that I was a carny. And I was like touring around doing these shows in schools, performing in English for kids in elementary and high school. And it seemed really great at first, very glamorous, but then we were working a lot and I was not well. Like I was exhausted, like getting to that state of burnout and all of that. And so made the decision that I was going to leave early from the tour, but first went to Florence because I'm already in Italy. I might as well enjoy some of this. I've been working, right, the whole time. So I went to Florence, and when I was there, I went to a nightclub with some of the other actors. And my ex-husband saw me in the nightclub and he rescued me there was a very large man who had lost his balance and he was about to fall on me, but I didn't know. And so my ex-husband came and pushed me out of the way, sorry. And then the guy flipped the table and flipped all of these drinks. Yeah, so it was quite the production. So of course then I noticed this very handsome man and he didn't speak any English. I didn't speak any Italian, but we had a phrase book. And so we've figured out how to talk.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't the best either.
I can imagine the words exchanged.
Yeah.
Again, I'm half Italian. I know Dena.
Right. But then he continued. He was like, I need to see you again. How do I see you again? All these things. And I said, well, if you really want to come and see me, I'm going to Rome. And so he had actually gone all the way down to Sicily from Florence because that's where he's from. And then he went to Rome and met me there. And it was another fluke from the universe. I had a flight home and then I had a flight back that I wasn't planning on using because at the time, this was during it was 2008. So like it was like the recession and all of those things happening. So it was less expensive to buy a return ticket than it was to go one way. And so I had this return ticket that I wasn't planning on using, but then I ended up going home, seeing family, seeing a doctor and a dentist, and then going back and moved to Sicily with him for a couple of years. Yeah. And then we traveled together. We went to Australia. We went to across Southeast Asia together. And then we came back, moved back to Canada. We lived on the west coast of Canada for a while in Tofino.
Wow.
And then, we wasn't, we were together for 9 years. And
did you learn Italian and he learned English? Yeah. That's so impressive.
Yeah. So I speak it now and he speaks fluent English as far as I know. And so it was a really cool story to meet, really beautiful, but we were just two very, very different people. So like initially it was like this beautiful love story and it sounded great.
It sounds like a fairy tale.
Well, things that can sound a certain way and they can look a certain way on social media and then, play out a little bit differently. Also, it was interesting too, when you meet someone abroad and you live abroad with them, sometimes things can work in one country, but not in another. And maybe that was part of it. But
interesting.
But yeah, I wish him well. I mean, it was definitely painful at the time because you think that your life is going to go in one direction and then it goes in a different direction. And it was difficult. It's not a fun thing to admit to yourself and admit to the world that it's not working out, but you can get on the other side of it. You can do a lot of healing around it, which I have done. And so now, I only wish him well, and also that version of myself, because I'm a very different person now.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, yeah.
How did you know it was the end? Where you're like, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah. I think it was when my dad was sick and he wasn't present for a lot of the visits at the hospital.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. So I think thank you. I think that was the moment. I think we all have those moments if we're in a relationship, or it could be with a job or whatever it is, where you're just like, I'm done.
Yeah.
And you just can't change that. It's like a feeling in your gut, and it's just so important to listen to that. And so I really try to really trust my intuition and my gut instincts on things like that, because otherwise you're going to live a life that isn't fun for you anymore, isn't joyful. I mean, life is not always fun and joyful, but a lot of it can be. Mm-hmm. But it's about trusting that you're growing and changing, and sometimes the person grows and changes with you, and sometimes they don't, and that's okay.
Did you try and have people talk you out of it?
No, I didn't. In fact, people shared afterwards that they, felt like it was the right decision.
Really?
Yeah.
That's good.
Mm-hmm.
That's good.
Yeah.
So you had that support.
Yeah. And I also think, I just think for any relationship, if you're not checking in with yourself, mm-hmm. and you, for me anyway, I would get lost in relationships. I would give so much of myself to another person, and it's not their fault. That was a fault of mine to just fully get lost. And there's some great things that I needed to be doing for myself, and mm-hmm. so I've had the opportunity to do that since, and I really, really recommend that. And I remember our moms and our aunts and, our wonderful older generations saying don't get married so young. That's what they would say. They're like, enjoy your life.
Yeah.
And I was 26. I like to say I was a child bride, right? It was, I was in a different headspace. And so I don't regret any of it, and I only wish everyone well in these experiences. But I would share with anyone listening, don't rush your life. Just enjoy your life, and don't feel like you have to, stick with the confines of what society's telling you in terms of things like that. Because at the end of the day, this is the person you go home to. This is the life that you live, and who cares about everybody else and everything else? That's your time.
Yeah. Pressure is a real thing from the outside world, especially if you have most of the people that you surround yourself with in one place in your life, mm-hmm. and you're not there. Mm-hmm. It's like, that's the only direction that you see then. So how do I get in that direction as everybody else? It's only natural to feel like that. Mm-hmm. But for you, in finding yourself again, I really appreciate you saying that you need to check in with yourself, because so often, even on this podcast and talking about relationships and whatnot, it's always check in with the other person. Mm-hmm. Check in with, you both need to check in and sit down and talk about your feelings. And while that's relevant and true, I don't think I've ever had one person say to check in with yourself, mm-hmm. because when you really ask yourself, are you happy? Is this enough for you? Are you looking for something more? What do you feel like you're not getting enough of? I think if more people asked themselves those sorts of questions and checked in with themselves, they'd probably leave a lot of relationships a lot sooner.
Yeah, definitely. And also, what's coming up for you in this relationship? For me, a big thing was fear of abandonment, which I've learned through healing, and that's as a result, I went through all of my adult life up until 2 years ago, just needing to be with someone without actually spending time to get to know myself and say, wait a minute, I have some wonderful qualities, and I love myself, and not in a ego way, but in mm-hmm. in a genuine self-love kind of way, where I think about my grandmother, who's always been such a strong force in my life. She's passed away almost 20 years now, but
wow.
But she was just this beautiful light for my whole family, and she just had this way of just commanding a room, but in the most loving way, and you could tell that she really loved herself. She would take very good care of her skin and using different creams, and but she would also care for others. She would have in her bag like a hot towel for us ready at any moment, or lavender if we got a headache. And so it's like the love that she had kind of spilled over to all of us, and we felt that. So I try to be like that. Like that's who I try to emulate. My mom is like that as well. So I try to follow in their footsteps and come back and be like, whoa, why have I been running away from myself for such a long time? Like, I'm not going to find whatever I'm looking for in someone else. Of course, I love being in a relationship. That's a separate thing. But the more I can come back and actually check in with how I'm feeling and where I'm at, the less I'm going to need from the other person in a needy sense, right?
I always say, and I've been told, like, because I say this often in relationships, like, I love you, I want to be with you, but I don't need you. I want to be with you, but I don't need you. And I've had boyfriends in the past be like, that's so mean, Nicole. That's so offensive. That's so hurtful. That's so like mean and like cold-hearted. I'm like, no. In fact, I think you should take that as a compliment. The fact that like I'm so okay with myself that I'm choosing to be with you. It's not because like I need you to survive, And I feel like more and more people need to remember that. And when a relationship is really good, but when a relationship is not so good and you feel like, I don't know if I can leave or what's going to happen afterwards, it's like you are always yourself first. You come back to that.
Yeah, and you'll be surprised at all of the beautiful things that can come when you check in with yourself. I'm not saying everyone should leave a relationship that they're in.
Yeah.
But if you do make that decision after checking in with yourself, you'll be really surprised at what other beautiful things can come of that. And you're right. Like when you're saying, well, how is it going to be? Like there's so many people, I certainly went through this experience, but also friends that I've spoken to where you're afraid, you're like, oh my gosh, well, what am I going to do? We live together. Now I'm going to have to get another place. Or what about the car? And da-da-da. These are all comforts and these can all change. And in fact, they do change anyway. So these are not reasons to stay if you're unhappy. Now, that being said, there are beautiful relationships and there's so much love. And what you were sharing earlier about, I don't need you, but I want you. That's a beautiful, aligned, happy, whole statement. That's a loving thing that you're sharing. And it sounds like some people might have been confused in the past about that. But truly, you're not coming at it as from a place of, oh, I need you, which needy energy is a very different thing than that whole space of, yes, I have this love for myself and I have love for you.
Absolutely. So in writing this book then, like how cathartic was it for you over the last year to go through all of this and put it on paper and kind of see it back now in hindsight? And like, I feel like physically writing it out must have been a very different experience living through all of this.
Yeah, it was. It actually, so this book started as a show 2 years ago. Yeah, so it was a show and I wanted to combine all the things that I do, all the wellness tools that I'm trained in with a stand-up show, with storytelling, and deliver it sort of like a talk, but give it in a comedy club or restaurant and bar environment. And I didn't know how it was going to go because it starts off with stand-up comedy about wellness and mental health, but it also goes into the stories behind those jokes and my own journey with grief and all of these things. And then by the end of the show, I have the audience tapping and breathing and doing a meditation. And I didn't know, it was a nighttime audience. Like I had no idea how people would respond to that. And I was really nervous and I dealt with a lot of imposter syndrome because I was like, I haven't shown this part of myself publicly before. I've always put out this persona of everything's funny and I can make it funny and whatever. Whereas this show has funny parts, but it has serious parts too. But the response was so beautiful. And what people shared afterwards, that when they came up afterwards, I was just like, oh my gosh, I was so moved because it came from such an honest place.
Yeah.
And so then that inspired the Self Help Me podcast, which also inspired the book. So it's been like a 2-year journey with it. But like I said, it's been 10 years of going through it.
Right.
And so, yeah, it has been really special. It has definitely been cathartic. And there are chapters in it. Like there's a whole chapter on grief that was both difficult and very healing to write. And the intention with that chapter, as with the other chapters, is to offer that to somebody, because you can read the whole book through, or you can go in chapter by chapter and be like, okay, I'm dealing with grief right now.
Oh, interesting. Okay. So you don't have to read it front to back. You can still have takeaways if you are dealing with something specific and you want to start there.
Or I'm feeling fearful right now, or I'm feeling anxious right now. What are some tools I can do to work through it? And what is the author sharing about I'll have stories in there where I went through that as well, if they want to read it. It also has
you have experts in there too, right?
Yes, yeah. So on each,
not in there physically in the book, but
they're not sitting in the book. No, yes,
they won't pop out at you. But
yes. But there's experts in Reiki, mindfulness, breathwork, hypnosis. It's really cool. Yeah, they share some really cool tools, and then it also comes with a online workbook. So people have like journaling prompts, they have online meditations and things like that. So they can, because I was like, what would I want in one book where it was everything in one place 10 years ago? This is what I would want. And I would want it to keep me accountable. And I would want things, not activities, but things I can do.
Yeah, for sure. An all-encompassing kind of like Bible, so to speak, of where you can refer to that and you're going to get all the answers and actions that you need.
Yeah.
That's really cool. For you personally, what was like the biggest surprise that you learned, or maybe like from gathering from like research or writing something down, or like a takeaway in writing this book?
Well, one thing is that I use too many words. 100% I use way too many words. So a takeaway is, if you are going to write a book, work with a number of editors, like have a number of people looking at your work. So I did work with a few different editors on it, and I recommend that, because I think having someone else look at it through their lens is so important. And yes, of course, ego is going to come in and you're like, oh, I don't know if I want someone to look at it. But guess what? If you're putting it out in the world, lots of people are going to be looking at it. So I definitely learned that. And I learned that when you're really connected with the purpose of something like a book will come out faster. Like I have another book that I started like 13 years ago that's like a travel book, and it's never been, I'm still working on it. You know what I mean? Whereas this one came out in a year because I was like, oh, this is important. I think this can help people. And not that the other book can't, but that's more of a like.
You were really connected to the message.
Yeah. So I would say, when you feel connected to something and you feel driven to create something, go for it. Like, yes, it's going to be scary at first, but what's the worst thing that could happen? You put it out there and then you have something to show for it. Like, I think that's a really wonderful thing.
For sure. It's like, it's better to do it than not do it. It's better to ask than always wonder. It's like all those, prompts are, you don't know until you know.
Yeah. And you do that. I mean, I love all the things that you do, Nicole.
Well, and it's the same as you. It's like, I feel like I've just gotten to the point, like, part of the reason why, to be honest, this has taken me so long to do this podcast, because I have so many ideas of things, shows and things that I'd create and do, but it's like the fear of failure and it being so public that feels so scary that like, if this doesn't work out, it's going to look really bad. But like, and even with this, like if it doesn't work out, oh well, I tried it. It was cool. I learned lessons along the way. I think I have more like inner confidence of knowing that like I'm not doing this for the validation. I'm not doing this for like outside people. I'm doing this for me, and I'm proud of what I've created, and like whatever comes of it, but I'm not chasing that either. That's not the reason why I'm doing it. So if it resonates with people, great. And if it's not for you, then turn it off.
And you do it, but you're doing it from a genuine place.
Yeah.
And I feel like people can feel that. And when you share in that way, people connect with that. And I think storytelling and sharing people's stories is such a beautiful thing. So I appreciate you doing this.
Thank you. Well, like yourself, we're creatives. We need something to be creative about, right?
Always.
Okay, so tell everybody where they can get the book, Dena.
Yeah, they can get Self Help Me at selfhelpme.ca.
Pretty straightforward. You can't mess that up.
No.
That's for sure.
No.
I can't wait to read this. Congratulations. I'm so excited. Do you think that there will be more after going through this?
I think so, yeah. I've thought about it, and I think there is more that can come, like as different volumes, I'm thinking.
Nice.
Yeah, so this is the first one. So
yay. Well, I can't wait to read it. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you for having me, Nicole.
And huge congrats.
Thank
Get your
you.
book.